Good evening, everyone. My name is Liz. I am the communications manager at No Theater. Wow, sorry, it's real late, and I forgot who I was for a second. Thank you so much all for joining me for the artist talkback for Almost Midnight, Almost Jazz. I don't know what order people are showing up on your screen. So I'm going to introduce everyone who's with me, and I'm going to ask them to wave when I say their name. So on my screen, I see Kelly Morton, the playwright of Almost Jazz. I've got Zach Robinson, the director of Almost Jazz. He's also the artist relations manager at the No, which means he is the boss of the entire Radio No program. I've got Jordan Trevelyan, who plays DJ EJ Jones / Patricia, Elizabeth Malloy, who brought Mama Linda to life, and then our Hector, the man who runs it all, Brandon Burton. Thank you all so much for being with us. I'm gonna jump into a question. Kelly, this started with you, so let's start with you. Where did the genesis of this idea come from? Are you particularly passionate about jazz or maybe radio DJing? Where did it come from?
Funnily enough, neither of those things. So it came about, I wrote it back in April, and it was when the whole pandemic thing was starting. All of my projects got canceled at once. I had shows that were going to be produced, things I was going to perform in, classes I was going to teach. All of my creative projects were just completely nixed. And then I heard about the radio plays at the No, and I was really excited, and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to write something. I just have to do something. And in this feverish weekend, this literally just poured out of me. And at the time I was like, oh, this is so random. But looking back, I definitely relate to the main character about being heard and wanting to get out there, because I was just basically cut off at the root, really suddenly. The whole radio thing just seemed like a good fit since it's an audio play, and my partner is obsessed with jazz music, and I'm slowly being educated on it. So literally every single jazz joke in there, it's real. It's all real jazz stuff that I am slowly learning.
Oh, that's delightful. And I think that that's a really a beautiful example of how pandemic art isn't just about, I think people hear pandemic art and they think it's about the virus.
Right.
But I think that it's so cool that you got to sort of give voice to, I think, how many of us artists were feeling at that time, which was suddenly pretty voiceless. Zach, so when this script came to you, how did you know it was a thing that was right for Radio No? What made it jump out at you? And also, how did you know that it was your project to direct?
So the first thing is the name just is really funny, and I love it. That's the first thing that popped out to me, just Almost Midnight, Almost Jazz. As if it's already starting from a place of wannabe, and I love that immensely. And the other thing that made it an easy choice for an audio play is it all takes place on a radio station. So that immediately was like, yep, there's not visuals for it. This is the perfect selection. And it's fun, it's melancholic, and it's hopeful. It's just a great piece. And I really love what Kelly wrote.
That's so lovely. Well, because we've been talking about this a little bit, let's jump into listening to the first clip. For anybody who hasn't listened to this wonderful, hopeful, melancholic play yet. So our first clip is the thing that sets up the story's big stakes. Here's a clip from Almost Midnight, Almost Jazz.
I don't believe it. I don't believe that someone would care the way I do and not have the universe give anything back. But whatever I believe, what Hector said next wipes all that away.
Patricia, I hate to do this. You're a fantastic station maintenance director, but you're not the greatest radio host. You don't have any new listeners. You've never had any audience engagement. I have to knock Almost Midnight, Almost Jazz out of its time slot. We have a licensing for a Miranda Lambert Power Hour, and we're going to jump on it.
But I played hardball, Jazz Cats. I wasn't going to let us go without a fight. I said to him, I said, Hector, if I can prove that I have listeners, if I can get audience engagement, can I keep the show?
Can she indeed? Hey, Jordan, so you spend so much time talking to your listeners, which in practice means that you are largely talking to yourself or talking by yourself into a mic. What's it like to build a character when you talk so much but interact so little? And what about Patricia from the script did you find interesting or helpful as you were starting to build that persona?
I think it was useful because, like, as Kelly was saying, like the sort of voicelessness of the pandemic was very heavy on all of us, especially like, you know, at the time that we were reading it, and that felt like a very easy thing to sort of tap into. But I also have a very long history of talking to people who can't hear me. So I was like absolutely the kid who would read whole books out loud to her stuffed animals. Not these stuffed animals, these are new, but the like I loved, you know, reading aloud. I would read to my family on road trips. And I think that the freedom that Patricia has in this is that she gets to create the audience that she wants to talk to. So it's almost like a diary in that way. So she, you know, she wants to talk to these people who love jazz, and she has never had any evidence that any of those people exist in her community, but she has this immense hope that they will, such to the point that she's been writing these songs, she's been showing up for this program, she's been working hard at every, you know, 47 minutes every couple weeks to do this show, and with nothing but the hope that there is someone out there listening to her. And that was very compelling. And I think everything about Patricia sprung from that particular like little seed of just someone who is so hopeful and so desperate in a way to be seen and to be heard, and someone who is just catastrophically lonesome. And I think that was, you know, it's an easy thing to feel in a pandemic, and it's an easy thing to feel as like a pleaser, being like, hey, you want to come over? I mean, not now, but later, you know. So I think that it's familiar enough territory, and I think it was kind of nice to have the freedom to be able to just like milk that for all it was worth, to like not have to pump the brakes on it at all.
Jordan, read to those stuffed animals, you absolute monster.
These are like, through all the whole podcast or the whole show.
So likewise for both Brandon and Elizabeth, while Jordan had to say a lot, like fill a lot of airtime, you both managed to make really strong character impressions without very many words to say. So from both of you, I'd like to hear sort of, what do you think the secret or the trick is to creating a strong performance using just your voice? And how is it different maybe from doing the same thing on stage? We're gonna start with Elizabeth and then bounce the question to Brandon.
Well, I mean, I think with this piece, it was kind of easy because the writing was already there. So Kelly had given us that baseline of here's the data you have to present. But then also when we rehearsed and even when we recorded, we were doing it all via Zoom. So we still had a bit of visual. And so I know Zach was very good at pointing out like, okay, but you have to do this, like, no one can see your face. You got to take that out of the equation. So we had to kind of figure out what, instead of, if you're on stage and you like do a bit of blocking or you have a facial reaction, you have to take that out or make it a vocal cue. So I think it was kind of amping up your little vocal quirks so you can have your beat changes when it's just audio.
Brandon?
Yeah, to echo the same things, you know, kind of a perfect storm. You kind of need like, because Kelly did some nice writing and Zach was great with the direction, because especially with small characters like that, usually small characters come in like that and make a huge effect and then get out of there. And I think the one thing too that they did really well is give me an opportunity to be unapologetic about it. And it doesn't hurt having a Southern accent as well too when I am not Southern.
But it sounded really good by the end.
It did.
I loved it.
I am the daughter of someone who has that kind of dialect. And I was like, oh, this is good. This is real good.
Thank you. I worked very hard. Very
hard. So we've talked a little bit now about these characters. We heard Brandon as Hector in that first one. Let's play another clip which introduces Elizabeth as Mama Linda. This one comes when DJ E.J. Jones is starting to worry that maybe she's not going to hear from anyone in her audience. Let's play our second clip, please.
Caller, here it is. Here we go. A caller. A listener. Let's look at this number. It's my mom. Hello, Mama Linda. You're live on the air with DJ E.J. Jones.
Hello. This is first-time caller, long-time listener, Annabelle Pickerington. I want to say that Almost Jazz at Midnight is my very favorite radio show. I listen every week, and you better not cancel it because it's all I have left.
Mom, we know it's you.
Mom? Who is this mom? I'm not anyone's mom. I'm Annabelle Pickerington, a dried-up toad who works the book drop-off window at Emmett Public Library.
We have caller ID, Mom. I already said it was you.
Well,
I do love Mama Linda very much. Kelly, is Mama Linda, I'm not asking you to call anyone out. Is Mama Linda based on anybody, like any figures in your own life or your own circle?
No, she's more based on like a concept of a person who is so wrapped up in their own lives, that they actually don't realize that they're hurting someone that they love deeply and desperately. Like Patricia is Mama Linda's favorite, most beloved person in the world, but with her like chokehold around Patricia's life, she's really restrained her from like going anywhere, and like she doesn't mean it, and Patricia's not like angry or bitter about it, but it is what it is. Yeah, that's where it came from. Hurting without wanting to or meaning to or knowing you're even doing it.
Codependency. So Elizabeth, I actually remember really clearly the first time I saw you perform because you were the puppeteer in Super True, where you played a very small child in just puppeteering, no vocal work at all. So now that you sort of told us what's different about working in audio, is there something that's the same across all of these different kinds of performance that you do?
Yeah, I mean, I sound like such an actor, but I think it really is about specificity and about having a clear idea of the character that you're presenting to the audience, and kind of locking certain things in, and that's both important, I think, when you're just as a scene partner. I mean, in Super True, Nicole and I would have these two-person scenes, and it was a conversation, even though she was just talking at me, and you had to have a clear reaction that would then lead her to her next lines. And I think also with this role, again, like Brandon said, like you have this small moment to make a big impact, and so you have to know exactly what your goals are as the character, and sort of a very clear idea of what that is, and I hope that we achieve that.
Actually, Brandon, so you and Elizabeth have also, like, you've been in a whole bunch of stuff together recently, and it has spanned a huge range of styles. I mean, you were Oliver, and you were Oliver, yes, in Puffs?
Correct.
Yes.
Hi.
And oh, that was a beautiful moment. I enjoyed that. And But you were also in The Nighttime Before the Sun Rises, which is very poetic and experimental. I know that you have a really strong background in classical theater, and now you're doing audio work. Do you have a favorite thing to do? Or what is your favorite thing to do? And what do you love about it?
I honestly don't have a favorite because as a classical trained actor, you're given a bunch of tools. So you're given an opportunity to try a bunch of styles. And, you know, I love any style for any reason at the moment. I think as of right now, I would love to have Puffs back because I need a good laugh.
The world needs Puffs right now.
Some silliness. I haven't done a lot of radio plays, but I'm looking forward to getting better at them.
You're already a delight, Brandon. Stop it this very moment.
Well, I just love the commitment of putting your laptop when we record at home, doing all these DIY things, a little behind the scene. A lot of times actors will have to move their mic into a spot where we don't get a lot of feedback. So Brandon was recording with the Zoom camera to his back and then going into his closet to record. And it was pretty silly, but great.
That's my
really good audio.
Yeah, it's my high-end sound booth.
I love
Yes.
that you can't close all the way.
Closet. Do you like clear out your closet, or does it work because you have clothes in your closet?
Actually, I still had to rig the closet. I had to put up some fabric to make the sound dampen a little around me. And then kind of close the door a little bit because the laptop was even outside of the closet because even that will create sound itself. So yeah, I had to MacGyver my way through some things to get a sound booth going.
Making art at home.
Well, what we do for art. It's what we do for art.
It's the dedication. Great dedication.
I would love to see everybody's those sound booths at home and
just
the
DIY
pillows everywhere.
Alex and I just put jeans on the wall when we were recording our show.
Did you really?
Yeah. Jeans are really good at dampening sound.
And now we all know that. So when you have to record sound at home, just hang your jeans on the wall.
Anna,
Yeah, don't wear pants.
so wrong.
DIY tips.
I can't wear pants. I'm using them to baffle the sound.
Fine,
They're
it's a
needed.
play. They're wearing pants. So while we're talking glimpses behind the scenes, Kelly, you did something really sort of cool in the script that I've never seen before. And I think that listeners wouldn't know this, but you wrote the characters of both Patricia and Hector to be played by either a man or a woman. The first page of the script says something like this character could be Patrick or Patricia, and this one could be Hector or Leah. I've never seen a playwright do that before. Where did that idea come from? And did that decision inform how you wrote those characters?
It's interesting because when I was writing it, I actually had a very clear vision of Patricia in my head, and Patricia was actually definitely Patrick. I just had that character in my head, and he followed me around for 2 days. My partner and I would look and be like, oh, Patrick would say this. So that is so Patrick. Even now we're like, oh, that's Patrick. We'll see someone do something ridiculous. We're like, Patrick. But as it kept growing and developing, I realized that Patrick really was kind of gender neutral, and that really their defining characteristic was just the need to be heard and the need to connect. And that is beyond gender. So for me, it honestly didn't matter. And the same with Hector, it honestly didn't matter if it was male or female or non-binary or anything. The only one that I was definitely a woman was Mama Linda, because I would have had to make so many different script changes and versions that I was just no, Mama Linda is Mama Linda, and this is who she is. But yeah, Patrick, Patricia, Hector, Leah, it honestly, I felt like their purpose and their meaning and who they are as people are just beyond gender, if that sounds weird, but gender has the least amount of impact on who they are as people.
Yeah, that makes sense. So Zach, when you were starting to cast this, usually, when we're casting, we can start with at least like, I need a man or I need a woman. And if it's I need a man or a woman, suddenly your pool sort of doubles. How did you find who was right for these roles? And did you settle on a gender for Patricia and Hector before you started casting, or did you cast them and then the gender followed?
So that's a good question. I think it all really depended on if Jordan was available, because I love working with Jordan Trevelyan. She's great. And if you get the opportunity to work with her, you should do that. So that was my first thought when I was directing this. So pretty much everything after that came.
Yeah, the moment he was like, I think Jordan, and I was like, yes.
Yeah.
I don't care what all that. This is Jordan. Yeah.
Yeah, so everything just kind of followed after that.
I love that. I love that. Everything follows Jordan. Jordan, did knowing that, because it's pretty clear in the script that we're talking Patrick or Patricia, did that inform anything about how you approached her, or was she just like any other character process for you?
I think that knowing that it could have been Patrick or Patricia, initially I was like, oh, this is going to be different. And it ended up not really being that different. And so it was something that just like during the first, my first read through of the script, I was like, oh, okay, like if I were a man, how would I be playing this? If I were, and I was like, oh no, that's not the way to go about this at all. And so, but I think that like, the thing that does change is like, you have this relationship with Grace, and, the challenges of like being a non-straight person in a small town do affect, how you would like tell like a romantic story like that. So like if it's like just a man who's in love with Grace at the deli counter at Albertsons, then that's like, standard and kind of fairly normal. But then if you have a woman who's in love with a woman, then they're like, oh, is this difficult, where, were there problems with her parents, and where there can be so many more challenges with that. And so as my bisexual girl high school experiences and later in life experiences have all informed. So I think that but having the support of Mama Linda's character and having the character of her father being this like imaginary, not real to her, real in real life, but not real to her, like character who's just like instilled with wanderlust, it gave me a lot of freedom to be like, no, like she's not this like wilting flower. She is bold, and she's not afraid to be who she is in whatever way she can be who she is, while trying not to hurt her mom, and while trying to like live her life to the fullest in the small way that she can. And I think that was really, it was compelling for me as, as an actor to be able to be like, okay, you know what, this is how it was more informing to the character than I think if it had just been like a straight relationship.
Yeah. So this is Almost Midnight, Almost Jazz. We're going to listen to one final clip. And a story about jazz wouldn't be much without jazz itself. So let's hear a little bit of this show's original music. Let's play the jazz, please.
I'm going to sing along with this next song too, because why not? This is Cat on the Keys. I hope you like it. Oh, I'm just a little calico cat, walking on some keys, while my mommy plays some A flats and B's. Because I wear my collar, I don't have any fleas. My name is Carla Blade.
And that was just the first verse of the
I was ready to
Carla
listen to the
Bley
whole
song
thing.
of Cat on the Keys. I find this so charming. There is more I would say more serious or more conventional jazz in there. But when Zach and I were talking about what clips we'd like to play during this talk back, he was like Carla Bley, and I was like, yes, exactly, excellent choice. Zach, why was that the one you picked?
Oh, it's just my favorite. It's they all three, every song kind of explains more and more about Patricia along the way, just like the feelings and the names of each one. And this one really lets you see, it's really just nice to see this kind of really personal, silly song. And it just reveals so much about her character, and I love it so much. And Jordan had a really big ask for trying to like beat this whole thing. She had to figure out the songs and how to fit the words in there. And so I think what she did was really amazing for each song, because there wasn't any type of sheet music. So that was just her going on what the music and the lyrics were and finding the song in there. And that's my favorite one.
So when we were getting ready to do this, Kelly, this was a thing that you mentioned that you were really happy about how it turned out. I know that you did not write the music, correct? You wrote all the lyrics, but you did write the music.
Oh, I did not.
No, sorry, the other way. You wrote all the lyrics, but not the music. Yes. So you said that you're not really a jazz person. How did you find a jazz voice for writing lyrics?
So the music was is original work done by Daniel Zimmer, who is someone that I have known for several years. He is one of the accompanists for a musical improv troupe that I'm in called Hot Mic. And I've known that he's been brilliant for years and years. And I've seen him play outside of improv. I've seen his like jazz performances, and he's absolutely brilliant. So when I was thinking I wanted to do a radio show and I wanted to do a type of music that maybe wouldn't be super popular, I picked jazz because, yeah, it's not as mainstream. And the first person I thought of was like Daniel. He is so talented and so brilliant, and I heard him just improvise things. So I was like, you know what, Daniel, can you just like improvise 30 seconds of different jazz music? And like, because I'm super naive and whatever, I just thought like, oh yeah, he'll just like lay something out. But he really like took all this time, and literally all I gave him was like a time length, 30 to 60 seconds, a title, and I told him if someone's going to sing along to it or not. And he didn't even know who was going to be singing along to it, so he didn't know the range. So what he came up with was just like so magical and beautiful that the moment I heard it, I was like, oh, this is Patrick and Patricia wrote this. Like, this is their song. Like, this is amazing. And when I was writing the lyrics, I honestly wasn't planning on like writing out lyrics. I was just gonna have whoever played that character just make up words. Because I was like, they're improvising. It'll just, because that's how improvisers think. We'll just be like, don't plan ahead, just go. Just because we don't think that things need to be good. So when I was writing down the lyrics, they literally just like they, I'm sorry, I can say that because I'm an
I don't add us on Twitter. She's an improviser.
I don't know how to say it, I promise. And it's like a super cliche, but when I was writing the lyrics, like they literally just flowed from my pen. I was like, this is something Patrick or Patricia would just say. And the Calico Cat one was my particular favorite because it's literally someone just like singing about what they think their cat is thinking about. And that just, like, who hasn't thought about what their cat or dog or fish is thinking about like all day long? And I would like to say Carla Bley is like an actual person. She is a jazz pianist. And I listened to a whole bunch of her when I was writing this show. So Patricia named her cat after a jazz pianist. Yeah.
Of course she did.
Of course she did.
And Jordan, one last question for the evening. Then what was the process of getting all of those pieces and putting them together?
It was great actually because the Zach and Kelly and Daniel all collaborated. We all worked together to make this into something that was good actually. And because it was cool because like I read the script and I had the script and I was like, okay, well there'll be music. Like someone will tell me what the song is. Sure, of course.
Well, if the week before I told Daniel what your voice range was, so he did eventually write for your voice.
He did, and it was wonderful. So there was that level of like 3 layers of sort of bespoke stuff kind of coming together. And so like I used to sing in a band. It was a cover band, so I was used to like learning other people's, particular like affectations with their vocal stylings. And so I mean, we did everything from Led Zeppelin to Lady Gaga and like all kinds of, stuff in there. And there was some kind of jazzy stuff, but it was it was much more kind of chameleon work. And so I was like, okay, well I could probably do jazz. Sure. I'm arrogant. And so
You're an improviser.
Improviser, exactly. And I mean, like I have done a little bit of musical improv. I think once with you, Kelly, right? I think we did musical improv once together.
If we do it again, it will be good. I promise.
But so I had the lyrics, and then I got sent the music, and then I had 3 small panic attacks, and then I and then Kelly was like, oh my God, I'm not married to the lyrics at all, so just feel free to like moosh them and make them fit. And then Daniel was like, here's some maybe more helpful stuff, and he sent me a bunch of like samples of like, here's some jazz to listen to. Here's Einstein on the Beach. Please feel free to do whatever you want with your voice. And so that was really neat. And then having the freedom of like, Patricia wrote this and she's alone in her studio singing to this music. So like it doesn't need to be perfect. And so I think that degree of like I had to take my perfectionism and stick it in a box and lock it up. But the Cat on the Keys one is actually funny to me because back when I was in this cover band, we used to sing Don't Stop Believin' all the time. And the guitar solo for Don't Stop Believing is meowing. It's meow, 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 meow.
Uh-huh.
And so that became the like, if anytime you were improvising music, you would meow. And so with this like kind of the key stuff, I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm just gonna meow. That's right in the wheelhouse.
That was my favorite part. I meowed in it. I died. Oh.
So yeah, so it was a wonderfully collaborative experience.
I just like that it all comes back to Journey. As a white girl who was born in the 80s, I really like that it all comes back to Journey. I have one last question before we call it a night. Brandon, are you team jazz or team country?
Team jazz, man. Team jazz.
But what about the Miranda Lambert Power Hour?
Oh my God.
Every time I hear
Well,
that.
I honestly used to listen to jazz as a kid going to sleep because we didn't have iPhones. So I actually had a radio clock. And I would turn that on at night and it would play. There was a station that played smooth jazz and like old R&B and Motown. And that's what I used to listen to going to sleep. So a little bit is nostalgic, but it would have been nice to have DJ.
Her soothing sound
DJ.
lulling you to sleep.
That's so
You would have called in, wouldn't you, Brandon?
Yeah,
gotta
on the
help the
dial-up
station.
phone. Up in the 90s, the dial-up phone.
That's
well,
adorable. I love that.
it just warms me knowing that you are a weird kid.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you all so much for joining us. We're going to call it a night. I am Liz Carmen. I know what my job is. I'm the communications manager at The Know, and I have been joined by Kelly Morton, Jordan Trevelyan, Zach Robinson, Brandon Burton, also Elizabeth Malloy, who we seem to have lost along the way. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great night.